thing going.
Don't understand.
Let me know. Yeah, it's all right. The video has video. Reload the player. Okay. Right. Sorry about this. It's all a bit.
Why has that guy Pete got a plus in front of his name? Does he own the chat room or something?
I don't know. He might be a moderator or something because he knows how to do things in chat rooms that I don't know how to do. Right then. Okay. I think we're there. I've got all the recordings going, so I'm going to say hello and well. I'm going to press the button. And ready, steady, go. Hello everybody and welcome to Sonic Talk number 247, recording today live on Wednesday the 14th of December and the run up for Christmas. We're getting there. I've got a bit of a cold, so excuse my sniffling and snuffling, but nonetheless we've still got a wonderful panel with us. I'm going to switch over to my Skype cam here. Hello everybody, and actually we'll say hello to everybody in the chat room there. Thanks for joining us. We've got a nice fulsome chat room, getting a regular crew there. Sorry about the pre-show being a little bit here and there, but it's very important the order in which I boot up software and get video sources to catch. It's all a bit Heath Robinson, held together with string and sticky tape, but it does work. Just wanted to let you know. Right, so let's say hello to everybody in the joining us live on Skype. We've got Mr. Rich Hilton there, over there in Connecticut. Rich Hilton from Hiltonius.com. He works with Nile Rodgers in his private facility on a regular basis. Do you have some special thumbprint to get you into this underground bunker? I've got this sort of sensation that you go down in sort of several levels, like some sort of James Bond type affair, or is it all daylight and lovely? Actually, I know the answer to that, don't I?
It's daylight and lovely, you know it is. But that's a funny image. I like that.
Anyway, thank you.
What's funny about it is they changed the locks the other day, and I went there having to do something that needed to be done on a deadline. And I got to the studio and inserted my key, and nothing worked.
Oh, no.
So I had to resort to the thumbprint technique to get into the building, actually. It was...
Oh, really?
No. We have other
scale the wall like Spider-Man.
I did manage to find my way in, but nevertheless... it's not quite thumbprint security. No, we're pretty much right there in Westport, Connecticut, somewhere.
Well, anyway, Rich, thank you very much for joining us, and I thoroughly appreciate you joining us. We've had a bit of snow here today, so everything's gone a bit wrong. I think that's probably what it is. Anyway, let's have a look. Who's this? I see.
Hey.
There's actually, is that Santa Claus, or is it Santa Spears?
Santa Spears.
Santa Spears.
Ho, ho, bleeding ho.
Ho, ho, ho. There's Dave Spears, G4 Software, taking the Christmas spirit to its logical conclusion there. Are you nibbling on mince pies?
No, chewing gum to stop the nicotine craving. Actually, I'm really, really itchy, and I'm kind of spitting, but I lost the bet, so I've got to wear this.
Oh, really? What bet was that then, Dave?
Just one I had with myself earlier.
Oh, right, that something wouldn't happen and it did. You don't have to tell us what that might be. Is it deadline related by any chance?
No, not at all.
Oh, right, fair enough. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and you and your beard. Actually, I was going to wear that next week, assuming everybody could make it, or anybody could make it for next week. So, but anyway, thank you.
You can borrow this.
Can I? Well, hold on. Can't quite reach it there, sorry. Anyway, Dave, thank you very much for joining us too. And we've also got, right over there, Mr. Gaz Williams, songsurgeon.co.uk, who is our resident producer and co-host on the fabulous Sonic Touch music and iPad show that we're doing. I've been uploading an episode today, and hopefully it'll be online a little bit later on when I get home after I've edited this or something. How are you, Gaz? You well?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Can we give a little preview to everyone about the Lemur? We covered Lemur on the new show.
We covered the Lemur application, and we cover the Nano Studio release as well. So people are saying that the video's locking up in the chat room. I think what might be happening is I noticed that Rich's video coming back was quite poor, but whereas all ours video in the UK, so there might be an issue with the transatlantic link. He said, it's making it sound sound really kind of technical. Because I'm looking over at my statistics and there's no drop frames or anything at this end, so I'm hoping we'll have the archive. It'll be up on YouTube later, so I'm sorry for all those people who are having issues. But anyway, Gaz, thank you very much for joining us there as well. And we've also got Mr. Mark Tinley from likebeing.com. Where are you, Mark? If you say a word, then you'll pop up into one of my two screens. Hello again.
I'm here.
Let's see. There you are. I've got you. You're wearing...
I'm masquerading...
as an elf.
I'm masquerading as one of Santa's elves again here.
Excellent. It looks wonderful. It looks absolutely wonderful. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Like Being, Mark Tinley, sound designer, creative thinker, and hat wearer. Which I was thinking, because there was the challenge last week was to wear... was to get some sort of pantomime thing going on, wasn't it? And I thought, well, we could wear a hat.
Oh, yeah, I should have sent a script or something, shouldn't I?
So, scripts, yeah.
Have we got another one before Christmas, or is this the last one?
Well, I was anticipating doing one next Wednesday, but judging by the way things are going...
we should do the panto next week, then.
The panto.
We'll do the panto, but I'll come up with a script, because the panto just basically needs to be a really badly told version of a traditional story with lots of silliness.
References to music technology.
Yeah, well, so I'll see if I can find a Christmas story with a music technology theme and maybe, send some ideas to you for approve.
We just have to have some DX7 piano in it, and that would be probably about what...
Oh, that'd be perfect, wouldn't it?
That'd be perfect.
Oh, no.
So, anyway, or let's...
No!
Hang in there, everybody. It's going to be all right. Freezing every 6 to 8 seconds. I'm really sorry about this, but we're just going to carry on as normal, and hopefully everybody can get to the bits that they need a bit later on. So anyway, this is Sonic Talk number 247. Let's start with... we have a lovely clip here. I'll just play it for you. I won't play all of that, but that was the improvisation by Bill Walker playing the... Well, it's not new, but I think it's new to actually being in production. The Moog Lap Steel, and he's using a superlative LP1. Now, Dave Spears, you sent me this, or should I say Santa Spears, you sent me this, and you said it was the acceptable face of lap steel, so I would like some kind of justification for that statement, please.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm always giving sort of lap steels a hard time because the sound annoys me, actually. It sounds like a sort of whining kid or a dying dog. I don't know. And then all of a sudden I started hearing this filtered. Yeah, probably. I know somebody who said that it was the perfect sound of techno, but I laughed when they said that. And then I heard this being filtered and stuff like that and thought, oh, actually, I really quite like this. Even though sometimes that resonance is a little bit harsh on the ears, I just thought, I quite like it. And it was a good performance. So there you go.
Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, the KLF, if I might say so, used slide guitar quite a lot on the... is it the White Room or the Blue Room? I forget which one it is. The one where there's lots of ambient stuff. And also, I mean, you cannot deny the sound... Is it Larry Carlton on all those Joni Mitchell albums? I mean, what a beautiful sound.
Annoying.
Annoying. I don't know what's up with you, Dave. There's nothing I can do for you. But lovely. I mean, it's a very expensive item. If I just go to this here, you're going to see it's like $2,800. I mean, it's really, really $2,900. It's expensive. It looks like it's beautifully built, and it's got all of that usual all of the stuff with the what do they call it? The full sustain mode and the muting mode and the control and the push and the pull and the filtering and all of that stuff. And you can access various items of various parameters via foot pedals and what have you. But kind of nice. I mean, I don't know. I didn't get a sense so much of this time with the I do with the Moog guitar before. I'm really conscious of the high harmonics, and something about the overtones of them. It may be because I'm not hearing it amplified. I'm hearing the sound of the strings in the room. I don't know. Rich Hilton, have you actually ever recorded any slap guitar? Has there been a place for lap steel in your production? Any of your production work?
As a matter of fact, there has.
I'm so glad you said yes to that.
But not the Moog one. But the Moog one looks great, and this guy plays it well. I was fascinated throughout, and it just, in terms of this guy's performance, it just reminds me of these. There's a whole bunch of guys who are getting really good at these foot pedal based loop devices.
Yeah.
And getting in and out of the loop and jamming over it and getting a nice variety of tones. And in his case, he had that nice filtering and his nice open minor tuning that he was working in. And he had a really nice command of the thing and was very musical. And it was cool.
Interesting because I'm guessing really lap steel players are perhaps more used to controlling the sound via external rather than just their fingers, because you get pedal steels, you get expression. There's always been a lot of expression and what have you to the technique of playing a lap steel. So this sort of seems perhaps a better match for the Moog guitar than for the Moog technology than a straightforward 6-string. Or am I just way off the mark there?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen anybody blow me away with the 6-string yet, but I'd like to, and I don't rule it out at all. But and in terms of my own recording experience with these kinds of instruments, in 1999 we made an album with a group called Strange Folk, and they were a rock band based on guitars, and they had a fellow come in named Gordon Stone, who is really a very talented and nice man, and he played dobro and pedal steel and was generally a very musical and nice textural addition to the whole thing. And some of my favorite stuff on there involves those things in there. And somewhat notably, the day we recorded Gordon was the day of the arrival of a hurricane. And
really?
And just as we were finishing up with Gordon, the power in the building went out. So we were done, and we had what we needed, and everything was finished. And then, all the power in the town had gone down, and we had to go stay overnight in a darkened hotel.
Oh no!
Hotels are really eerie with no lights on,
and somebody playing slide guitar down the corridor from the distance as well. Yeah,
yeah, right. A plaintive blues lick from down the hall.
Yeah, Gaz, I saw you dash off and grab something. What is it you've got there?
Right. Well, when I saw this, I didn't know that Moog were doing this. So, I've got a poor man's version of it, and this is something I've been using for a while on some of my recordings, which is just like a cheap kind of lap steel.
Ah, okay.
Like so, with a slide.
Ah, right.
An EBO
Yeah.
for the infinite sustain. And a filter, which I can just got a foot controller.
That's
so it's
really
pretty much
good idea, an EBO.
It's great because what's great is you can. It probably won't come through on here, but you can just rest it on the thing. Oh, there we go. Can you hear that?
Yes, I'm just hearing it.
Just about. Whoops! It's just fallen everywhere. But it's funny because it's pretty much, it's nowhere near as good as the Moog thing, but it's pretty much trying to go for the same sort of thing. And it's quite nice, though, because I just plonk the EBO on there. That just frees my hands up then. So I use one hand with the slide, and then the other hand I use to sort of manipulate the pedal controls and different things.
And approximately what's the total cost of that setup, if you don't mind me asking?
Okay, so the EBO is about 50 quid. This is about 60 quid, I think. 50, 60 quid. And the pedal's about 80, yeah, so less than 200 quid.
It's a very different thing. I mean, it's obviously not luthier built and all of that. I mean, actually, one thing I did see the other day, and this just popped up on when I was looking on YouTube. There was a 1949 National Steel guitar, and this bloke was just showing a video of him setting it up in his garage, and it came with the original lead, and the lead had a kind of it was a really funky jack plug with a sort of bobble on the end and a sort of cloth lining and everything, and he just plugged it all in, and it all worked. And he said, "This is all completely." I don't know what it went for, but it was just as an aside. I know, Mark. I'm guessing you're a guitar guy. Have you explored the world of slide guitars? Oh, look, Mark.
A lot.
Excellent. Have you tried it with EBOs as well?
No, I haven't tried an EBO, and I like the idea of that, actually. I mean, I've explored alternative tunings and bottlenecks and things like that, and I sort of listened to, I can't remember the man's name, actually, Charlie somebody or another, some blues legend from like the 1930s a lot in my sleep. So, Charlie Hooker, I think it is, actually.
Right.
So I just don't get the country kind of sound of it. I mean, it was all from like when I was a teenager listening to John Peel, and John Peel used to kind of intersperse these kind of cool punk things with all these old 30s blues kind of acoustic guitar blues records, and I kind of just got into that. The John Peel theme was that thing that went down, down, down.
Yes, it was a slide guitar there, wasn't it? It was more, yeah, it was like an R&B thing, wasn't it? Yeah. Absolutely.
So I don't know, I guess, and learning to play the guitar, it's sort of kind of important to know how to do the basic blues scales and stuff, especially if you're in a punk band, you know.
I would like to point out the Moog sustain thing is nothing like EBO. It works on a completely different technology, and it's string and pickup independent, so you could do some really kind of completely different tonal things. But I'm just wondering, is there a way to EBO multiple strings at the same time, or does it all interfere with one another? I mean, can you get 6-string ones with buttons on that you can trigger? You know, I mean, it would seem
theoretically. I guess you could theoretically.
That was the original gizmo that Godley and Cream invented. Was a push-button thing that would give you sustain. It was a series of turning wheels or something, and that would excite the strings right down by the bridge.
Oh, I see. Was it
great?
So it just kind of tickled them as on demand. This sounded good. Yeah, sorry.
On demand, exactly.
That sounds a little bit more dirty than it was supposed to. But anyway, that sounds like quite a good show title already. Tickles them on demand. Yes. But anyway,
the moment you start getting into that more lap steel kind of sound, though, it starts ending up in like country, doesn't it? So that's never really appealed to me.
It's a very specific tone, isn't it?
Mind you,
I mean, we're
Steve
going into like Dolly Parton.
Oh well, there's nothing wrong with Auntie Dolly.
But I always liked Steve Howe. Steve Howe would play lap steel on sort of like close to the edge, and he would sort of make it like sound really futuristic and really kind of not country sounding at all. You know, so John, I think it is quite a flexible sound.
John Van Eaton in the chat room very kindly says, John Van Eaton says, lap through a vocoder just to off Dave and Dave's wives at the same time. You're not a fan of the lap steel, and your wife doesn't like the vocoder, so you could get them both going at the same time. That's a very Christmassy and kindly thought, John. You seem to...
It's an idea for a plug-in, isn't it?
Yeah.
The lap steel vocoder.
Lap steel vocoder, yeah. Very specific kind of annoyance factor, yeah. Anyway, that's the Moog lap steel guitar. I mean, there was no more to it than that, really. I just thought it was nice, and Dave sent it over, so thank you very much for that. That was lovely. Right, what else have we got? Oh, this is quite big news as well. Let's see, I'm over here, aren't I? This is the news that... this is Create Digital Music. I put this. I haven't got an intro for this. Create Digital Music. This was he wrote a piece on that Logic 9 has been updated and put in the App Store alongside. So it's been broken up into the App Store and Mainstage. So the App Store. If I switch to, I think I've got my App Store here. I switch this. It's App Store. Logic Pro is $139, and Mainstage is £139, and Mainstage is £20.99. Now, this might seem like a whatever, because we were all expecting, this sort of huge announcement of OS X and, the Logic Pro X. But actually, thinking about it, you get all of the content that, like the Apple loops, the sample. It's like 1,700. I wrote it down somewhere. 1,700 sampler instruments and had 20 gigs of Apple loops and all of this stuff for £20.99, and it has rewire support, so you can run this whole thing. It's like it's Apple's equivalent of Complete or something, and it comes with every single instrument and plugin that Logic make, and you can run it. I mean, it just seems like for 20 quid. Isn't that a little bit anti-competitive? Rich, I can see you nodding crazily. I obviously picked up on something that you agree with, which is makes me feel kind of like I'm doing something right.
Well, the Mainstage thing with all of the loops, basically all of everything that's not the program Logic, it seems to me, comes to you for $30 now.
Yeah.
It's
pretty
groundbreaking.
impressive. I mean,
at $500, we were talking about how impressively cheap it all was with all those other programs.
The thing about this,
the other thing.
Sorry, carry on.
Let me get this out of the way. Straight out.
Oh, I've got some sort of.
This is the second time.
Yeah.
Pardon?
There was just some interference there. It seems to have gone now. Carry on.
This is the second time I just recently fallen in love with Waveburner, and then got burned. The first time was at the end of OS 9. And then recently, every now and again, I have to master something. It's not often, but once in a while. And I've used various things along the way. And the most recent thing I had to do, I used Waveburner and enjoyed it tremendously and got the hang of the workflow and thought, yeah, this is pretty cool. And so what did they do? They dropped it again. They did the same thing for a year or two after OS 9. It took them a long time to put out a version that worked in OS 10. And so I'm feeling like I got burned on Waveburner.
I'm sorry
again.
to hear that.
But the idea you can buy Mainstage and all of that stuff for $30 is pretty amazing.
To think, how much is Complete 8 if you buy it? What's it like? $800? What's the price? Does anyone know in the chat room? Just quickly.
There's two different tiers. There's one with everything in the sample libraries, and then there's the other one that's not ultimate. One of them's ultimate and one ultimate. So there's two different tiers.
Does anyone know in the chat room whether or not what that might be? Basically, it's like I think people are they're not hearing what I'm saying. I think there must be a delay there. So I'm guessing it's probably $800 or $800 maybe. I mean that's a guess. That is a guess. So for $30 and the price of a Mac Mini, you can kind of have a standalone thing that you could run over Rewire. I mean, assuming that the performance is good enough. I mean, that's kind of a fairly major thing. I mean, this has been played down, and it's only thanks to Peter Kern on Correct Digital Music that I sort of thought, wow, that has actually kind of almost something that is going to really fly. I mean, you could buy a new machine for the same price. I mean, it's not quite the same thing, clearly, but I don't know.
It's a lot of stuff for $30.
The next question you need to ask is, because GarageBand and Logic are essentially the same program, how many of those plugins or how much of that program could be made to sit inside GarageBand and essentially turn GarageBand into pretty much into a Logic version with all those synths and plugins? So that's
interesting. I don't know if GarageBand works with Rewire or not. I mean, I would imagine it might not, but I'm not entirely sure.
Well, given that the program underlying is pretty much the same, are those plugins hardwired completely into the code of Mainstage, or are they floating around in there somewhere such that you could just open the contents of one and drag and drop the bits and pieces into the other? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can see
it would make plugins.
It would make
if they're truly plugins, they should work in the other version of the program, theoretically.
Interesting idea. I mean, I don't know that they were. Well, we'll see what they do, but it might be a sign of things to come. I know Dave Spears. I mean, you're an Apple developer. You kind of do stuff. With Logic and what have you in mind, just purely because of the nature of your work with plugins. I mean, is this going to make any difference? It seems like quite a good deal. I mean, if I was starting out, I'd be thinking, yeah, hell yeah, I'll get that. I mean, obviously, it's no good if you're on a PC, but why ever not, eh?
Yeah, no, I think it's really good. What price was Logic before this $199 price drop? Do we know?
I think it was about 300.
It's 400. 420 UK pounds.
420 UK pounds.
Logic.
Wow. Okay, so that's massive. And it's interesting that they've got rid of Logic Express, because that was it was strange actually. We rarely get support emails for Logic Pro, but weirdly enough, we used to get quite a few for Logic Express, and I was never sure whether that was a kind of pro versus sort of casual user, and whether people have had Logic Express for quite a while. But it's interesting that there were some things like AU validations were slightly different in terms of Logic Express.
Just
You know,
what you
they'd
need,
be
eh?
slightly more problematical. Yeah, the consistency didn't seem to be there, which is surprising because I was convinced it was the same code base originally. But yeah, I think, you know, Logic Pro at bloody $199, bargain. Mainstage, $29, bargain.
It's hard. I mean, I must admit, we did when I was working on production with a live band. You know, we were trying to run the show out of Mainstage, and we got as far as the keyboard players, and that was great because it meant that we could just pull all the stuff in, edit in Logic, and really quickly get them together and working. But the problem was then it was the drums. The drums were not consistent. The latency was not consistent enough to be triggering pad sounds and that sort of things. I mean, that may well. I mean, we're talking 3-4 years ago, so maybe that the latencies have come down and you know, there are machines currently, you know, like i7 or i5 Mac Minis that are able to cope with the speed and the priority of dealing with that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the one thing that always let it down. And I think they ended up, if I remember correctly, they had to run everything. I think I'm trying to remember now. I think they might have ended up putting everything back in Logic because it was easier for that to be controlled from a master source. I forget the name of the program now. Somebody wrote a funky little utility that allows you to run Logic and send commands to other stations that load songs in time and all that sort of thing. So I'd be really interested to know whether Mainstage has made the leap into real proper professional kind of capability, or whether it's still at the sort of I'm doing a little gig and doing that.
I know for a fact that Nick Rhodes is about to start using it as his keyboard rig.
Oh, really?
So they're going to run 3 instances of Mainstage. But I think I'm right in saying that you can bolt AU plugins into it as well, or VST plugins or something. So you can run other people's plugins in Mainstage, can't you? Am I right in saying that?
I don't know, actually. I mean, not VST,
so you're not
probably,
just stuck with the Logic stuff. You can add some other stuff in there as well, I think.
So that makes it very interesting as an environment. I mean, that's sort of started to encroach on all sorts of
absolutely. Your whole AU world shows up there.
Right.
I know the Ultravox guys used it on the last tour, and I think they all were using it on Mainstage.
Really? But perhaps not the drums. I mean, this is the thing that, you know, stopped it before, because the drummer just could not kind of play it with any certainty. You know, at least I think the issue was, at least what happened with, we went back to using the S5000, because although that is latent, it's a specific amount of latency every time, so you can play to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't move around, and I think that was kind of the issue that was the problem. And that's quite interesting, because I was looking back at the interviews I did with I was doing with Flood, and he was saying, you know, the problem that you get is when you're loading machines up, certainly in native mode, I don't know if that's in Pro Tools or not, you get differences in latency and processing lag between things, and things move around a little bit. And I'm not sure how true that is, but certainly in drum world, those guys are going to feel it perhaps more sensitively than, you know, your average brain of mine, like mine. I don't know. What do you think, Dave? Rich, is that true, or am I talking out of my proverbial? No, don't answer that question. You look like you're just going to say, yes, you are talking out of your...
I quite honestly didn't hear what you said, and so I'm embarrassed to tell you that, but I can't respond to it.
That's all right. I'll gloss over that.
Logic doesn't have PDC, does it? Or I'm not sure how its PDC is kind of implemented. Plug-in delay compensation.
Yes, it does. It does have it. It's automatic. Yeah, it does. You can switch it in whether it's at what level, whether it's channels or aux and buses as well. I can't remember what it is. I don't want to launch it because it's probably going to bring everything to its knees.
Mm-hmm.
But
a friend of mine was doing something in Logic the other day, and he was using Ozone as a de-esser or something, it was removing clicks off a double bass as a track insert rather than as a mastering thing, and he was getting it being delayed and slightly out of time. So I was kind of thinking, oh, that's interesting, because that sounds like the bad old days of plugins sort of not paving.
I don't know. There may be particular routings.
You have to go and tick something in the preferences.
Right. Is that true? Okay. But anyway, that was... sorry. Yeah, go.
I was just going to say, though, about this £20.99 sort of price point. that Mainstage has come in at, and also was it £139 or something Logic. It is this kind of shift, isn't it, that Apple are doing, which we have talked about before, as more courting the sort of, consumer or prosumer end of the market and seeming to be abandoning the sort of high ends. We've seen it with Final Cut now and
well, maybe so. I mean,
Aperture
I'm thinking a little bit differently about that now, because if you shift a lot of Mainstage based on dropping the kind of the level, then more people are going to adopt it, and that there's going to be a sort of blurring of the line between kids at home in their bedrooms and people who want to use it on proper tours and that sort of thing. And if more money goes into the actual coffers for that particular project, then presumably more resources will go to the coders who can then accommodate the wishes of, because basically, as far as I can tell, Apple are no different to any other company. They love hanging out with pop stars, and doing things for famous rock stars. That's the way to get into their kind of good books, is to be famous, and say, give tickets and what have you. I mean, not exclusively, but sometimes, you can get in and just say, look, we've got a problem with Mainstage, we want to use it. And they, and I think that might actually open things up a little bit more in that respect. So I'm not sure that's a bad thing. But maybe
I don't
it's
think
kind
it
of
is.
cool, isn't it? If everybody ends up using the same tools, and then it's down to raw talent as to whether a band makes it or not, isn't that kind of cool? Kind of cool to think that a 15-year-old kid with like a small budget can put together a music technology system that can rival or match something that a world-class touring act has, and to know that at the end of the day, when you hear something coming out of either of those cams, that what it boils down to is raw talent.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't you think?
Yeah, that is true. I mean, and that's again, it's one of the continual truisms about making music, isn't it? So yeah, that's a great leveling field. But by the same token, we end up in a situation where we've also covered where things become homogenized and everything the same, and But anyway, the bottom line is, for 20 quid or $30, you can get hold of a whole bunch of stuff, and whether whatever level you're working at it as, even if you're a kid, in your bedroom just wants to access some sound, this has got a lot of that. If you're someone who wants to maybe do gigs, there's a lot of that too. So I mean, I think there's some great. It's a very interesting move, and one that frankly is likely to kind of give everybody a bit of a kick up the bum, isn't it? Because I mean, a lot of these other people, a lot of software developers can't compete with those sort of prices. So I'm not sure how great that is in that respect. But anyway, that's beside that.
I thought Peter Kern had some really great points actually from a developer's point of view, in that if you have other revenue streams, and in particular he mentioned the pro support, the subscription based support, that you can probably afford to kind of slash prices like this, because in the normal course of events, most of the money you make on any kind of software usually goes back into development and largely support. So it was quite an interesting. He had some really good points actually. It's the first time I've read his blog kind of thoroughly.
No, it's good. It's a good article. And in the chat room, Wildman says, just to have interest, U.S. Treasury Department puts the country's operating cash balance at 73 billion, whereas Apple has cash reserves of 76 billion. Yes, and also suggests that Apple should sponsor this show. Well, of course, I'd love that. But and I know sometimes we do come across as, or certainly I do, as an Apple fanboy, but that's not true. It's just this is a pretty groundbreaking announcement, and what can you say? Right then, I think it's probably time for an ad. So if you need to do anything, scratch your beard or anything, Dave, Secret Santa there, then I will play the ad now. So I just want to say thank you very much to Yamaha for their continued sponsorship of the show. What you're looking at here, if you're watching the video stream, I certainly suggest you do, is the Yamaha C24 and W24 pocket tracks. These are some of the smallest 24-bit 96K recorders that you can get. Pocket size, the C24 is 57 grams, absolutely tiny. 4.5 seconds startup time, 24-bit 96K, records to high-capacity micro SD cards. It's got 2 gigs built in, XY configured stereo mics, peak limiter, all of those things. And the W24 is sort of its bigger brother with infrared control, which is fantastic if you are recording your own gig. Maybe you've got it at the back of the room on top of a mic stand or up in the air. You can trigger it from on stage without kind of having to climb up a chair or have a mate operate it. But beside that, these are They've got large stereo mic, wireless control, everything. There's lots of stuff that it's got going for it. You've also got Cubase AI5 music production software included, and tuner and metronome, onboard speaker for checking recordings. So what you want to do is go to YamahaSynth.com or YamahaDownload.com. If you're in the UK, check the sorry, Dave is really putting me off. Check the location of Pulse stores, which are kind of like stores within stores. And they will be able to tell you where to go and try one of these out. And if you're in the US, check one out. Go take some memory down to a store with you, record some stuff, take it home, see what it sounds like, and see whether or not they're for you. That's, once again, we thank Yamaha for their continued sponsorship of the show. Oh, I thought I was going to catch you there, Dave. I have caught you, in fact. There you go. Right. Thank you very much. You swine. I just couldn't stop that. I was thinking, what are you doing? And then I looked closely and I thought, oh, I see. I actually thought that might have been a pocket track in your hand for a moment, but it's not. Right. So what should we do next? This is... do we want to bother with the iPod dock stunt? This is the new Behringer iPod... What... This is. I'll just quickly have a look at it. It's quite funny, actually. Look at that. That is this enormous 10,000 watts of power, 8 foot by 4 foot chassis that weighs at 700 pounds. Behringer are using it as a stunt. You see that tiny little. That's the phone on the top. It's to launch their new Euro sound kind of brand, I think, and basically that's being launched at CES, which is just before NAMM. In fact, if you go to NAMM and you've seen people who've done CES first, then they're the really tired ones who look like they just want to go home. But anyway, I just thought it was kind of funny. Anyone likely to want one of those? I mean, this is everybody seems to be moving into the lifestyle brand, isn't it? I mean, everybody wants to be part of the lifestyle thing, and it's kind of getting a bit tiresome. Doesn't anybody want to make professional stuff anymore? I know, Dave, you do, don't you? You want to make professional... Do you want to make lifestyle apps, or do you want to make professional kind of music creation stuff?
No, lifestyle's marketing over substance, I think.
Probably a lot more cash in it, but...
Bah, humbug.
Bah, humbug. Says Santa Dave there. I don't know. Anyway...
Yeah, no, I don't know. I quite like this completely absurd $30,000 thing. It did make me laugh. I thought it was a joke at first.
I thought there was a particularly good quip. This was on the Future Music blog, which is not related to Future Publishing. They said they would, they should actually have a, what is it? If I can zoom that in, a Euro sound ladder to go with it as well, so that you can climb up and change your music on that. I mean, this is the same problem that we saw with the Jean-Michel Jarre one, which is basically you have to climb up a ladder to change the music. It's a publicity stunt. What can you say? Not much. And before the tumbleweed kicks in, I think I'll move on to another video. Eh?
I actually do have something to say.
Oh, go on then, Rich. Thank you. Thank you for saving me.
Well, I have two different rigs here, and one of them has a dock on it, onto which I can just slide this baby, and then from the screen or the menu system of the audio-video device, I can operate the iPod library and select tracks from it and play them.
Right.
And then downstairs on my other rig, connected digitally, I have an Airport Express, which is part of the AirTunes network in my house. And I got to say, I never actually stick this thing in the stereo, but I will always light this thing up, operate it, and play songs digitally through the Airport Express rig. In other words,
as one of the AirTunes speakers, right?
It's much more fun to operate this thing than it is any of those menu-driven systems that I've seen.
Yeah.
As far as navigating your library and getting to things.
Right.
Brilliant. I totally agree. I do exactly the same thing. I can play anything off my phone and have it come out any set of speakers in the house. It's absolutely brilliant.
So what do you use for AirTunes?
So I don't want to plug my phone into anything. I want it in my pocket. So if I go...
Oh, that would appear to be... so at the end of that must be...
What a dramatic pause.
That was a very dramatic pause. I don't know
great.
what happened there, but it was quite exciting. Maybe Mark...
And I go, up!
Yeah, oh.
Put it in my pocket.
Yeah, not sure that's a good idea by the sound of it. I think he just put it in his pocket and something terrible happened. Oops, I nearly played a video there.
Yeah, right.
which is not what I wanted to do. I'll jump to this view. So actually, the AirTunes thing is cool, but I mean, basically, the thing I don't like this. We're on Apples again, aren't we? The thing I don't like about it is you've got to have an AirPort and a set of powered speakers. I like something to be, just a unit that I can pick up and just go, that's an AirTunes receiver. That's what I would like to have. And there aren't many of those yet. Not enough of them. Anyway, decent.
Yeah,
right.
true.
All right.
Can we next April? Can we do a little April Fools that Apple are changing this connector and just see how many people freak out?
It's a Thunderbolt. Yeah, a single wire. It's all coming through.
It's going to happen. You know that day's coming someday.
Yeah, it won't be an April Fool's then. It's just going to be an absolute nightmare. Right, I think Mark is probably coming back with... Yeah, Gaz.
Yeah, a slightly connected point. I know that the iPhone 4S has got Bluetooth 4, and under Bluetooth 4 you can kind of run things at a latency of 6 milliseconds. So I'm assuming that other Android phones and other devices are going to be supporting this Bluetooth 4.
Yeah, that's something that's been
So I've only just found out about that, but then that suddenly made me quite excited about wireless.
Let me just get Mark again quickly, because I think he's probably waiting for us. Unless, of course, he's had a power cut. I'll leave. In fact, what I can do is leave you with a little bit of Dave Smith Tempest.
But the reason why...
I'll stop that. You carry on there.
The reason why I was mentioning that was does that Behringer thing have... does it have Bluetooth in it as well?
I have no idea. I think it's probably got a whole lot of air in it, based in it's 8 foot by 4 foot. I'm sure they've probably got someone in there who you shout at that will change the tunes for you. I was
just imagining how cool that would be, though, if you could do it over the air and you did get the latency down to sort of less than 6 milliseconds. Then that would be a pretty nifty thing to have, wouldn't it?
Right.
If you had 5,000 watts and a wireless controller.
That would be terrifyingly loud. Looks like Mark's rebooting or has had, like I say, a power cut or some kind of network failure. So let's move on to Vmeter. This is something that Dave again found. You're on fire this week, Dave. You've sent me so many topics. Amazing. So I'm going to play that. That's my vid 2 button. Here it comes. This is the 57-second version. Now, apparently, if I put myself in it, then it doesn't violate the copyright of YouTube. Here I am again. What is it about? I find myself doing the same thing. The only thing you can actually use to do that is basically filters. But anyway, that is the Vmeter, which I will flip to. I've got a web page up here and everything. I flipped that. It's from vmeter.net. It's $59, and it's a single USB, but it's got an LED in it. It's pressure sensitive. It's also location sensitive. It's got it looks like quite an interesting idea for a controller. I don't know, Dave. This obviously piqued your fancy. What was it about it that did it? In fact, if I get Mark quickly, I'll see if he's online now. So let me just quickly get him before you answer that. Hold that thought. La, 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 la. Hey, Mark, are you there? Mark, come in, please. Are you there, Mark?
Hello.
Hey, Mark. I don't know.
I am here.
Okay, all right. We've just done the Vmeter thing, so I'm just talking to Dave about because he sent the link in. So, Dave, what caught your attention about this particularly?
It was a good toy, good price, toy, Christmas. Who doesn't want a toy at Christmas? I thought it was really neat. I'm a bit of a sucker for ribbon controllers and all of that kind of stuff. I've got the Kurzweil one over there and the CS60 thing over there, and I just thought, well, that's cool. I could buy a few of these and put them together and do something silly until I get bored, and then put them in a corner where they'll join the rest of the remote
The rest of my
controllers.
controller. I've got a special room for housing controllers. Yeah. Yes, I know what you're saying. No, it's a good idea. I mean, I couldn't help it. The thing that I liked about it, and then was a bit disappointed to find out, was that you've got the Vmeter mode, which allows you to monitor audio. You've got these other ones, but it's all done via Max MSP, and so that's only available if you download a special plugin for Live, and it integrates well with Live, as do a lot of these things. So I'm not sure how much more use this would be than, say, the little Steinberg controller with 8 faders on it. You know, I mean, they've got LEDs by the side of them. Not as many steps, admittedly, but I don't know. Is there any reason why this would be better for that? Gaz, you look like you might be pondering that question.
I was just checking out more information about it. Looks quite nice for mounting onto stuff, though, doesn't it? You know, you could kind of, you know, if you wanted to make sort of, you can mount it onto a guitar, or I think that's quite nice because it's
a single USB port per hardware device, so you can have one hell of a USB hub in the chain there somewhere. But yeah,
so how does the pressure sensitivity work on it?
That's a good question. I mean, I can't see that there's anything bendy, but it looks like it's. I'm not sure. Maybe it's something underneath or whatever. I mean, I have to find that out a little bit. I'm not entirely sure.
The price seems right, though, doesn't it? I mean, you know,
yeah, I know what
think
you
that's
mean.
what's good.
I mean, it's about the price of a nano control, isn't it? It's actually a little bit less than a Korg Monotribe. If you check out the review that I've just posted of the Duo and the Delay, by the way, it's now online. Just while I plug that. Yeah, it looks like it could be fun. I know, Rich. There's something euphonicsy about it, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? It's got that kind of look for the Master Control, but is there something about faders that aren't faders that appeals to you? I mean, I quite like having a physical thing to move and see.
Well, my friends who use the drawbar simulators that Nord has, for example, say that you get used to it. I can't say I've spent a lot of time with it, but I don't think I'd have a problem with it. And I quite liked this idea as a product until I saw more than one of them on the table. And then I said, no, actually, the real product from a product development standpoint, to me, is not selling these individual chopsticks and connecting them to a USB hub, but selling something that's got 8 of them in a small box that you can control simultaneously or in a fixed formation.
Yeah, well, maybe that's something that he's got planned. I mean, this is presumably early days, but yeah, that would make more sense.
I think so.
But I mean, you know, as Gaz will tell you, you know, we've just in the episode for Sonic Touch, which has gone up hopefully today, or will be here by the time the show's online. We took a look at the Lima application, which has that kind of capability built into it, and it's like, you know, I mean, it is an iPad thing, so I mean, I suppose that's going to put some people off. But you get that level. I mean, if it's just touch, then what's the point in having something that isn't built into one of those devices? I suppose it's price, really, isn't it?
Well, and the lights, right? Quite honestly, it could look really cool in a live performance circumstance, but the fact that they would have to be perfectly aligned to look right. Yeah, unless you want a couple, you could probably mount a couple at the other axis. I mean, you could have them facing both directions, but the point is the look of the thing. If the point is the look of the thing, then having them as individual single ones, to me,
right,
is weird. And you want to have you either want to sell a chassis for them with the USB hub built into it, or you just want to build a box that is a few of them, 4 of them, 8 of them, whatever, however many you think.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. A fair point, well made. Thank you very much. Mark, are you there? I'm seeing a spinning icon, so I'm not entirely sure whether you can hear us or see us.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, well, we'll...
I'm here, but I'm seeing a spinning icon for everyone else. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
You? Excellent. I was quite excited by it and thought it looked fantastic. I didn't watch all of the video, and you were just talking about it just now, and you said, of course, it's Max MSP.
MSP.
Why can't I say
it needs the Max MSP runtime engine, which means you don't have to buy it. You've got this little runtime engine. Which gives you
But the moment you said that, I just closed the window and went, you know what? I just don't even want to go there. It's too complicated. Just give me something, simple to work with. I don't want to have to use my a logical brain to make music. I want to make music with my music-making brain. And when it comes to digging around in all that really, really heavy math stuff, you know, there's a limit to where that's fun. And Max MSP is just slightly beyond that limit. So I just kind of thought, well, no, I like the way it looks. I like what it does, but I don't want to get involved with Max MSP anymore.
That's actually an interesting point you make, because all of this controller stuff, I mean, this is something that I've always found myself. I mean, maybe other people don't. It's geared towards the part after you've already made the music and you want to perform it. It's not really all that much use for creating the music, because, as I've said, you know, it's the same thing with drum pads. You know, it's like, great, I'd like to have MP Seal-style drum pads on my, you know, keyboard, whatever. But if I'm looking for a beat and figuring that stuff out, I really don't want to stop and have to assign notes to a load of pads, because then it's all over. I've finished. I just, you know, that moment has gone. There's no time left in, you know, to actually, I won't ever get that back. So you just want to reach for it and just go. And that's the thing that
it's almost like,
yeah.
See, I think creativity, it's all to do with creativity, isn't it? And when you're being creative, it's almost like you've just dived into the fast-running stream. And if you don't stay in the flow of that idea and where that idea is going, and you stop and you get out and you start fiddling around with the boat and checking that the rudder's aligned or something, you've lost it, haven't you?
That's a very good analogy. It's interesting. There are a number of sort of old school performers who work in that way, and definitely. I mean, I remember Van Morrison bought the old Woolhall recording studio, which is not far away from Bath. That's where I did some album work and stuff in the past. And he bought it and used it as his own recording studio. And I used to know a chap who's a multi-instrumentalist, and he used to get gigs occasionally going out to work with Van. And Van Morrison is a very demanding person to work for, because he just sort of wanders around and then suddenly it's like, go, I'm ready, and everybody has to be ready just to catch whatever's coming out of his brain at that time. And that is actually a really difficult thing to achieve, and back then it required some highly skilled and perceptive individuals to make that happen. And that's something that we're kind of missing massively, perhaps, from the point of all of this stuff. Dave, Santa, you were nodding there quite heavily.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. A really, really good point. In fact, I know somebody who used to play keyboards for Van Morrison said, you know, he would literally just shout out what he wanted to do next, and everybody had to be ready. Everybody had to be on the ball, from techs to programmers right through to all the musicians. And I think his knowledge base of songs, it was in the thousands. Amazing. But yeah, definitely. You don't think about that, but actually there are people who operate on that level and expect everybody else to operate on that level. Immediately they say, jump.
Yeah, I mean, that's tricky. And also, there are a lot of I mean, I know quite a lot of people who work for Mr. Morrison, and there are some great stories about his total disinterest in technology, and why should he be interested in technology? He's about the thing. I mean, about his own thing, but people having to interpret his desires into the new technology that's available in the studio. There's some great stories about, you know, getting phone calls in the middle of the night saying, I've put this CD on the turntable and it won't make a noise, you know, that kind of stuff. It's great, really, but that's what it comes down to. I mean, Rich, I'm guessing, you know, in a lot of the environments that you work in, that is quite critical as well, isn't it? That just sort of get ready to catch it, don't miss it. I mean, this sort of stuff doesn't fit in with that kind of paradigm, does it?
Which stuff doesn't fit in?
This kind of having to set up controller, you know, just things that aren't ready to go away, I mean, I suppose.
No, it has much more to do with sculpture than with photography. It's not a real-time, instantaneous type of thing. You have to set up a whole set of parameters with it. It's like sim world. It's sim creativity. You have to create your creative environment from which you can then theoretically begin to undertake those kinds of things that you're describing. Mm. But this is the building of that environment.
Yeah, I suppose
it's like sim world.
If you can create that, and then this stuff can then respond to stuff in real time. But like I said, it seems to be more after you've done the real creative outpouring rather than.
Oh, apparently you can, and. There was once published Michael Brecker's Logic environment, which apparently was pages and pages wide and the most complicated looking thing. And it probably rivaled the wiring diagram of New York City kind of thing. And and it allowed him real-time control over all kinds of things that were important to him on various instruments at various times during his show. So I think that, yes, it can be achieved to that extent, but when you're working around a guy like Van Morrison, apparently, that wouldn't be... That's a misapplication of a technique to a circumstance. That's not the place for that.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay. And I think that was your point.
Yeah. Guys,
it's got me thinking, actually. Yeah. I do. It has just got me thinking. I was trying out Siri on somebody else's iPhone 4S, and just sort of this whole idea that you don't, that you say what you want it to do, and it can intelligently interpret your commands. Like, text my girlfriend, I'll be late, or whatever it is. And I guess it's still relatively early days for this, but it just got me thinking about how that kind of technology could start being put into doors. You say, okay, set me up 24 tracks, blah, 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 just give it a few voice commands, or like, to do with setting up controller routines, just tell it what you want it to do and let the computer sort of figure it all out in the background. Just got me thinking about that. I hadn't really thought about it before. Voice commands
I don't know
DAW.
if you remember when the original Yamaha DMP7 mixer came out. It was the first affordable flying fader digital consoles, from what I recall, and Wally Badarou, who was the keyboard player for Grace Jones, and presumably made a reasonable amount of money out of those projects because they were huge, all through that period of time. He created, and I remember reading something in Sound on Sound in one of the magazines, a voice-activated mix studio where he would say, whatever it was he would say. I mean, obviously, we're talking probably 20 years before the technology was ready for that to actually happen. But I just triggered a memory of that, and I wonder, I mean, are we getting to the stage where voice-activated mix is going to work? I mean, surely though, isn't that what we are?
Is that like a Neve console with Siri in it?
But isn't that what we do? Isn't that our job? Our job is to respond to those voice-activated commands and execute them for our clients, right?
I mean, you can. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but the problem with that is that we can think way faster than we can communicate. So you need to build a relationship up with your client, don't you? So if I'm working with Nick, I need to know what he's going to ask me to do before he asks me, so that I've already started doing it. Otherwise, I can't work as fast as he can think.
I
so
see.
I need to kind of know what he's thinking, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
So
exactly. No. Absolutely.
Yeah, it does make sense.
So it involves building a relationship with the person you're working with, as well as just being able to operate a studio. I mean, the people whose lives I just wouldn't want to have is like, the person that's bought a whole load of gear, set up a studio, and they're working at a fairly sort of semi-professional level with a lot of different bands coming in each day and having to do lots of different styles of music. Those guys, I mean, I know a few of those guys, and they just must be so stressed out by it.
I'm sure it must be, yeah. But it's an interesting area. I mean, we've kind of probably wandered off the original point of this topic, which I shall now try and bring back. No, that was my own doing. I mean, I was the one who brought it up, so really, there's no need to apologise. It started out as the Vmeter USB controller, and there it is, and this is kind of an interesting new device. I'm not sure whether you can order it yet or whether it's available, but I'm thinking, oh yes, it says submit. In fact, if you get one and submit a video to their Facebook page, you get a $10 refund. Applies to previous orders too, so might be worth getting hold of one of those and trying them out. We're actually very near the end of the show, just in terms of timing. I wonder whether or not we should. What I should do, really, because there were two things I wanted to come to. Rich, you sound like you might be disappointed that there's one topic we haven't got to. Which would that be?
Well, no, I mean, if you were going to close it out, you've got to do the playing of the Christmas Carol.
I would think that would be. I mean, in a sort of pre-Christmas thing, you might be right there. I'm just wondering whether we've got time.
It's seasonal.
It is seasonal. Well, I'm wondering whether we've got time to fit anything else in, because there was actually some interesting additions. I think we'll have to go with the closing. And so what I'll do is I'm going to play this now, because this is our next item, and this will close us out as well. So here we go. think Bing and Bowie would just be they'd be weeping at this. It's beautiful, isn't it? I'm not sure I can take any more of that because in my little earbud earphones, that's an incredibly piercing sound. But that was the sound of, I think it's a Hewlett-Packard scanner by BD594 from Toronto, Canada, and that was obviously Little Drummer Boy, which was made famous by one of the most bizarre couplings of a Christmas record ever, Bing Crosby and David Bowie. David Bowie at the time being quite, hip and happening. It just seemed like such a strange connection, but that's by and by beside the wayside. But Rich, you requested this one that we get to it. You didn't want to lose this one, so what did it have? Does it hold a special place in your heart? Does it make you feel all festive?
I thought it was fascinating, and actually it's mostly because I had a conversation with one of our dear friends, Kent, 6 months ago, about the possibility of him making music with his CNC manufacturing machine with which he was making touch digital controllers at the time. So what occurred to me was that this was the actual realization of something that he had thought of pursuing.
That's excellent. Actually, we have covered something similar to this before. I think it was with printers or floppy drive motors, anything with stepper motors in it. I'm not entirely sure. I'd just like to point out, actually, the project that BD594 says the project was really difficult. It was 70% timing and 30% execution. There are a lot of videos with floppies and stepper motors. They have quick response times because they're not under a heavy load. The problem with the flatbed scanner is moving the large carriage head. So he had to kind of make it work in terms of timing and pauses and stuff. I'm guessing, Santa, we should probably come to you because you would be most qualified to comment on this, seeing as it's sort of your domain there, Mr. Santa Force.
Why?
Well, I can't think why. It's because of your outlook and appearance, I think, is probably what it is.
I'm sort of slightly schizophrenic on things like this. If I ever met the bloke, I would either want to sort of buy him a drink and go, that was brilliant, or I'd quite like to set the dogs on him. I don't know, there's a lot of these around, and I was just, clever, but
I would be
interesting.
I would be interested to know actually how long that took from start to finish, how long it took to do and make, and whether or not, bless him for providing fodder for the podcast, but I'm just wondering whether there are other more important and pressing matters in his own life that he should be getting on with, other than...
There was something quite weird, though, about this, in that, did anybody else, or was I under some kind of hallucinogenic drug, see the Raspberry Pi symbol pop up?
Yes, there was. Yeah. And we talked about that, didn't we? The Raspberry Pi was that thing that we talked about, I think...
When everybody was in the same room.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Maybe that's what was being used to control it, which was like a control on a PCB. I'm not sure. Mark, your video's come back and you're hatless. What's happened?
I've just I took the hat off because I thought
it might be causing interference.
And suddenly, much to my surprise, you all just reappeared on my screen, and now I look mental. So.
I thought you were going to come up with a much more interesting and exciting thing, a series of events than like you Charles just took your hat
Chaplin
off.
Or something. Shall I say what I think about
Please
this song?
Please do, while you're there.
This song reminds me of being about 6, I think, and I used to go to this school, and they made us sing this, and I was one of the smaller boys in the school, so I had to stand at the front of the stage. And it was absolutely terrifying. All the parents came in, and there I was on this little, and it was like an old wooden library in an English public school, and public school meaning, kind of a boarding school kind of school, except I was a day boy, not public school as in the American public school system, which is a completely different thing. So for the first few years of my life, I went to something which was a little bit like the sort of local Eton, with all the posh children. And having to sing this song and just being absolutely terrified by it, and we had
really?
like
It brings
sheet
back
music
bad
and everything.
memories.
But I remember,
Oh, no.
I thought it was Andy Williams. No, it doesn't bring back bad memories particularly. I think it was probably one of the first musical performances I ever did, and I just probably just found it frightening. But I thought it was Andy Williams that recorded it for some reason. Maybe my
No,
mum had.
I'm pretty sure it was
Andy Williams.
Bing and Bowie. Pretty sure.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Horrendous.
Oh, I thought
video.
a whole load of people did it before. Bing
In
and
fact,
Bowie did it.
Yes. I mean, it's not. They didn't write it. I've heard it before. In fact, it was. They're both wearing rather smashing Christmas jumpers in the video, aren't they? Standing round the fire and in a very Yule kind of fashion.
You know what? I could go off on a massive tangent about David Bowie, and I won't because it's not what this topic's about. So I'll stop.
Well, I appreciate
talking.
that, Mark. 'Cause, yeah, only because we're drawing to a close. That's all. I know, Gaz. Is this the sort of thing that you buy a Christmas CD of? It's almost like the Cats thing, isn't it? You know, the kind of Christmas hits meowed by cats on the sort of early days of samplers, and now we're sort of maybe there'll be a Christmas compilation CD, or not CD, collection of MP3s of Christmas carols or festive tunes played on mechanical devices programmed by people over enormously long amounts of time. I don't know, something you buy?
No, I don't know. No, these things are quite fun, aren't they? But as you say, the amount of time it takes to do, sort of, do the people who make it ever really get the sort of credit that they need, for the amount of time they put in? I don't think so.
Almost the same amount of time as it takes to make an album for some people, perhaps. I'm guessing it might take an incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess you probably set out to see if you could do it, but. I haven't got much to say, sorry.
Right, well, that's okay. In that case, I can probably... Actually,
be.
Sorry, go.
They must be doing it for the satisfaction of completing it, though, surely.
I can
It's
It's like making it's like making the Eiffel Tower out of matchsticks, isn't it? I mean, it's a challenge. It's something...
Exactly.
A man needs a hobby, generally. So I don't mean to disrespect him in any way. I mean, obviously, that's kind of... It's a lot of work, and it requires a lot of different skills and what have you to accomplish it. So good for you, and hopefully, I wonder if you could whether you could have a scanner orchestra, or that might be just asking a bit too much.
Yes, excellent. Do that.
Scanner, yeah. Well, we'll see whether that happens.
Brilliant
Anyway,
idea.
I have been forgetting to say that we're also sponsored by Mac Pro Video, who you can get 20% off any downloads by visiting sonicstate.com MPV. They've got an absolute ton of video tutorials on Pro Tools, all sorts of things. In fact, they've got a new one on Pro Tools 10. They've got lots of stuff on Ableton Live, all sorts of really in-depth courses and tutorials. So if you want to save 20% on any downloads, sonicstate.com/MPV. Go to it and save yourself some cash. Right, well, I'm guessing that we're heading towards our the final furlong, and this is where we say our goodbyes. I'm hoping that next week we'll be able to squeeze one more show in before we all turn off for the Christmas break. I fully intend to have the week off between Christmas and New Year, so if anyone else shows up to watch the show, I'm afraid it will probably be dead air. I might release something. I'm trying to get an interview sorted out in the meantime. So there might be something I can show you. But I want to say thank you very much to Gaz Williams, because Gaz Williams is there. Your video has frozen, but I can still hear your voice. Thank you very much for joining us, Gaz. Really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah. Thank you.
And people can also see Gaz on Sonic Touch, which is our iPad and music devices show, which should be out this evening, or certainly by the time that this show reaches YouTube. Or MP3 world. And also going to say thank you very much to Dave Spears. I'm going to switch to very shortly, and will regret making some of those gestures. Dave Spears, G4 Software. Thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. I hope you're going to get a break for Christmas, or are you going to be?
I don't know. Hang on, it's coming off.
Are you going to NAMM?
I can't take it any longer.
I forget to ask. Are you going to NAMM? Are you?
We decided today that we're not.
Right. Well, fair enough.
Partly because my passport ran out and I've forgotten to renew it.
Ooh, that's a great excuse. I'll have to try that one. My passport runs out next year. Ah, good grief, it was you all along.
Yeah, there you go. There's a surprise. Why does Santa always smile? Because he knows where all the bad girls live.
Great joke there. Thank you very much, Dave Spears. GeForce Software, I will probably have to cut you off before you get too dirty. It's something about wearing a beard of that nature. Anyway, thank you very much. And we'll also say thanks to Rich Hilton, Hiltonius.com. If Rich makes a noise, he will appear in one of those two squares you see before you. Let's see. Which one is it? Left or right? Left or right? Now.
Woof.
I think you have to make a noise a little longer than that.
I'm making noises.
There we go. We got the right-hand side. Rich Hilton, thank you very much for joining us too. Hiltonius.com. I'm guessing you've probably... are you winding down for Christmas, or have you got kind of a lot of last-minute stuff to get out of the way?
I've got some last-minute stuff to get out of the way.
Yeah.
But I'm happy about it. It's all good. It's a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying it.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much for joining us, Rich. Very much appreciated. And finally, we'll say goodbye to Mark Tinley. Have I already done that? I'm now becoming a little bit confused myself.
No, you haven't said goodbye to me.
Haven't said goodbye to you. And
I'm still here.
By speaking... the hat's back on. Excellent.
The hat is back on.
The hat is back on, and the video's still on too. So thank you very much, Mark. Mark Tinley, likebeing.com. Thank you for joining us. And like we say, next week is the last show before the Christmas break. Certainly live. I might try and get something out in between. So thanks very much for joining us.
You're very welcome. This Thursday, I'm going to the Toastmasters Christmas pantomime, and we just basically have a rough outline of what the pantomime is going to be, and then we make it up as we go along. So I'll get some tips from that, and then I'll send you an idea, and then maybe we can start with something like that next week or something. Yeah. But I fully intend to wear a ridiculous wig and eyeshadow at least.
Okay. Well, as is your want, so I wouldn't wish to put you off in any way from doing that. So I look forward to that intensely. Okay, well, that's it for the Sonic Talk. I guess I could play us out with another little blast of the Drummer Boy, just to keep it in the sort of the pleasant Christmassy style. So thank you very much. That's as much as I can take, and I'm sure everybody else is heartily sick.